How high's the water, Mama?
If the Grand Canyon could sing, it would sound like Johnny Cash.
Papa, she said it's 2 feet high and right.
The simple things of life are really the important
And a
things.
homemade boat, that's the only thing we got.
The winner is the album of the year, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison.
2 feet high and rising.
He licked the problem, and I don't know if any guy in the world that has more guts.
Water, Mama, 3 feet high and rising. How high's the water, Papa? She said it's 3 feet high and rising. Well, the hives are gone. I lost my beat.
I was born at Kingsland, Arkansas, on February 26, 1932. And, well, actually about 4 miles out. I wasn't born right in town there or anything.
Johnny Cash, the original Man in Black, was born one of 6 children to poor cotton farming parents in a ramshackle smallholding at the time America was in the depths of economic depression. Some of Johnny's earliest memories were of his father riding the trains across the state in search of work and returning home with tales of hobos and outlaws.
The first time I knew what I wanted to do with my life was when I was about 4 years old. The song was called Hobo Bill's Last Ride. And I thought that was the most wonderful, amazing thing. From that day on, I wanted to sing on the radio.
Away from home, waiting for a train.
The Cash family toiled the land, and from the age of 5, Johnny would join his parents picking cotton in the fields, singing bluegrass songs along with his family as they eked out a meager living. Despite the poverty, Johnny's parents installed a strong sense of Christian values in their son, along with a cherished love of gospel music which would stay with Johnny throughout his whole life. In 1936, his father took advantage of a new Roosevelt farm program, and Johnny's parents were lucky enough to be able to build a larger house to accommodate their family. His family's economic and personal struggles during the Depression shaped him as a person and inspired many of his songs, especially those about other people facing similar difficulties.
When I was a kid, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, my dad hopped freight trains, rode the rods, the box cars on top of them, wherever he could get work, you know. He always sent the money back home. And that left, except for the kids in school, my mother and I. She played the guitar, and she has that lick there. And I just loved it. And the first song I ever learned was one that she sang. She might have been thinking of my dad, who was away working for a living to send money home, when she sang, "So often there's a mother always waiting you at home."
I found him by the railroad track this morning. I could see that he was nearly dead. I knelt down beside him and I listened just to hear the words the dying fella said. He said they let me out of prison out in Frisco. For 10 long years I paid for what I'd done. I was trying to get back to Louisiana to see my Rose and get to know my son. Give my love to Rose, please won't you, mister? Take her all my money, tell her buy some pretty clothes. Tell my boy that Daddy's so proud of him. And don't forget to give my love to Rose. Won't you tell him I said thanks for waiting for me? Tell my boy to help his mom at home. Tell my Rose to try to find another, 'cause it ain't right that she should live alone. Mister, here's the bag with all my money. It won't last them long the way it goes. God bless you for finding me this morning. Now don't forget to give my love to Rose. Give my love to Rose, please won't you, mister? Take her all my money, tell her to buy some pretty clothes. Tell my boy that Daddy's so proud of him. And don't forget to give my love.
I was 5 years old in the winter of 1937 when the Mississippi River broke the levee near Wilson, Arkansas, covered our cotton farm, as it did all the other cotton farms around. We heard by the radio that the levee had broken, and the news reports were saying that everybody would have to make arrangements some way to head for the hills.
The hardship of Johnny's youth and the life he experienced would be a great inspiration for Johnny's music, often quite literally.
My daddy sat on the front steps of the house and watched the water rising from the levee breaking. 5 steps, and every day he would say, well, it's over another step. And Mama would say, how high is the water? And he'd say, well, it's 2, 3, 4, 5 feet high and rising. When it was 5, he had to get out. So,
How high is the water, Mama? 2 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 2 feet high and rising. We can make it to the road in a homemade boat. That's the only thing we got left that'll float. It's already over all of wheat and oats. 2 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Mama? 3 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 3 feet high and rising. Well, the hives are gone, I lost my bees. Chickens are sleeping in the willow trees. Cows in water up past her knees. 3 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Mama? 4 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 4 feet high and rising. Hey, come look through the window pane. The bus is coming, gonna take us to the train. Looks like we'll be blessed with a little more rain. 4 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Mama? 5 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 5 feet high and rising. Well, the rails are washed out north of town. We gotta head for higher ground. We can't come back till the water goes down. 5 feet high and rising. Well, it's 5 feet high and rising.
that was 37. In 38, there was a good cotton crop, and picking time was real good.
Well, sing that.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't ask him to do another song,
No,
but
I want to hear it.
But it was a bumper crop that year, and this song came from thinking about the crops in 38, 39, 40, 41 there.
I got cotton in the bottomland. It's up and growing, and I got a good stand. My good wife and them kids of mine gonna get new shoes come picking time. Get new shoes come picking time. Every night when I go to bed, I thank the Lord that my kids are fed. They live on beans 8 days and 9. But I'll get 'em fat come picking time. Get 'em fat come picking time. It's hard to see by the coal light, and I turn it off pretty early at night. A jug of coal costs a dime. But I'll stay up late come picking time. Stay up late come picking time. My old wagon barely gets me to town. I patched the wheels and I watered them down. Keep her in shape so she'll be fine. Oh, my cotton come picking time. Oh, my cotton come picking time. Last Sunday morning when they passed the hat, it was still nearly empty back where I sat. But the preacher smiled and said, that's fine. The Lord will wait till picking time. The Lord will wait till picking time.
Tragedy struck the Cash family in 1941 when Johnny's older brother Jack died in a sawmill accident. Johnny clearly remembered his father breaking down in front of him, sobbing whilst holding Jack's blood-stained clothes. Johnny had always looked up to Jack. He was broken-hearted. He would forever torture himself, returning to this moment in time to activate his self-destruct button.
Peaceful waters of the ocean deep and blue, I held my breath and watched the western sunset's golden hue. I've flown above the mountain peaks and valleys wide and green, but you're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. You're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I have searched for happiness so long and for, but my search for love was through the day that I found you, 'cause you're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I confess that I've been tempted by alluring magic charms, when a smile was flashed my way and stood before two open arms. But I turn and walk away because I love you like I do. You're the nearest thing to heaven, darling, you. You're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I have searched for happiness so long and for, but my search for love was through the day that I found you, 'cause you're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I have watched the silver raindrops fall to earth to cool the day, watched the rainbow at twilight when the clouds had blown away. I love the pretty flowers, money cannot buy their worth, but you're the nearest thing to heaven on this earth. You're the nearest thing to heaven, yes you are. I have searched for happiness.
In 1950, America had just entered the Korean War, and the Iron Curtain had fallen across Europe. After graduating from high school, Johnny, with little career prospects at home, enlisted as a radio operator in the United States Air Force. After basic training at Lackland Air Force Base and technical training at Brooks Air Force Base, both in San Antonio, Cash was sent to a U.S. Air Force Security Service unit at Landsberg Air Base, Germany. Here it was found that Johnny had an aptitude for Morse code. Here, promoted to Staff Sergeant, Johnny spent his hours listening in to the Soviet military machine. Unable to lose the musical vein that ran through him, Johnny would while away his spare time practicing the guitar.
I went to the Air Force after I graduated from high school, and it was in Germany in the Air Force. In the bitter winter, in January, a blizzard was raging. I had $5 in my pocket. I walked the 5 miles to Landsberg and bought a $5 German guitar. It had no name, but that's how I got my start. I was 21.
This led to him founding his first band, the Landsberg Barbarians, as Johnny recalls.
The sound of Johnny Cash and the Landsberg Barbarians.
On the hair, on the horn, on the frog, on the bottom of the log, and a hole in the bottom of the sea.
Hey, John, I brought our old Gibson guitar.
Just call the roll, John boy. The Landsberg Barbarians are all tuned up and ready to go.
Your old Air Force buddies in Germany, now from Vicksburg, Mississippi, Reed Cummins, and from
Reed.
Max Creek, Missouri, B.J. Carney.
Hey, Crow!
Looking good.
Good to see you.
I think this is the first time America's ever seen the Landsberg Barbarians. Isn't that right, Peter?
That's true.
Reed, is that the old Gibson guitar there?
Yes, it is, Ralph. We call it the traveling guitar because all of the barbarians picked on it, practiced on it from time to time.
I guess maybe you ought to have that guitar gold-plated there.
Probably should.
Thank you, Reed Cummins and B.J. Carnahan.
I was arrested, on a Tuesday. They locked me in a jail, poor boy. On a Wednesday, my trial was attested. On a Thursday, they said guilty, and the judge's gavel fell. I got stripes around my shoulders. I got chains around my feet. I got stripes around my shoulders. And them chains, they're about to drag me down. On a Monday, I got my striped breeches. On a Tuesday, got my ball and chain, poor boy. On a Wednesday, I'm working digging ditches. On a Thursday, Lord, I begged them not to knock me down again. I got stripes around my shoulders. I got chains around my feet. I got stripes around my shoulders. And them chains, they're about to drag me down. On a Monday, my mama come to see me. On a Tuesday, they caught me with a file. On a Wednesday, I'm down in solitary. On a Thursday, Lord, I start on bread and water for a while. I got stripes around my shoulders. I got chains around my feet. I got stripes around my shoulders. And them chains, they're about to drag me down.
During those long army years, Johnny had been dating a local Diess girl, Vivian Shaw. This relationship led to marriage on August the 7th, 1954, at a small, intimate Catholic ceremony.
Every time I look at you, I fall in love all over again. Every time I think of you, it all begins all over again. One little dream at night and I can dream all day. It only takes a memory to thrill me. One little kiss from you and I just fly away. Pour me out your love until you fill me. I want to fall in love beginning from the start, all over again. Show me how you stole away my heart, all over again. One little dream at night and I can dream all day. It only takes a memory to thrill me. One little kiss from you and I just fly away. Pour me out your love until you fill me. I want to fall in love beginning from the start, all over again. Show me how you stole away my heart, all over again, all over again, all over again.
I used to listen to the country music and gospel music programs on the stations in Memphis, and that's what I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. I knew that was my place. And my mother told me she knew it too.
Leaving the army in 1954 and impressed by the career of Elvis Presley, Cash persuaded Vivian to move to Memphis. Cash took up employment as a salesman, but devoted all his spare time to music, forming the band Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two. The band dressed in black. Cash would claim that this was to demonstrate a united stand with the poor, the downtrodden, and the outlaw. The real truth was that these were the only matching color clothes the band had. Johnny was determined to be signed to Sun Records, the home of Elvis Presley, and repeatedly telephoned its owner, Sam Phillips, for a contract as a country singer, then a gospel singer. It was not until Cash literally doorstepped Sam that Phillips would take the young pretenders seriously, as Johnny recalls.
One morning, I found out what time the man went to work. I went down with my guitar and sat on the steps, and when he got there, I introduced myself, and he said, "You're the one that's been calling." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Come on in, let's listen." So he did. He said, "Come back tomorrow and bring some musicians."
Cash did, and in 1955, Sam Phillips signed Cash, and his first single, Hey Porter, and Cry, 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 sold over 100,000 copies in the southern states alone.
Frankie and Johnny were sweethearts over the blue, blue sky. He was a long-legged guitar picker with a wicked wandering eye, but he was her man nearly all of the time. Well, now Johnny, he packed up to leave her, but he promised he'd be back. He said he had a little picking to do a little farther down the track. He said, "I'm your man, I wouldn't do you wrong." In the front door walked the redhead, Johnny saw right away. She came down by the bandstand to watch him while he played. He was Frankie's man, but she was far away. He sang every song to the redhead. She smiled back at him. Then he came and sat at her table where the lights were low and dim. What Frankie didn't know wouldn't hurt her none. Then the redhead jumped up and slapped him a time or two. She said, "I'm Frankie's sister, and I was checking up on you. If you're her man, you better treat her right." Well, the moral of this story is be good but carry a stick. Sometimes it looks like a guitar picker just can't tell what to pick. He was Frankie's man, and he still ain't done her wrong.
Johnny Cash's instant success enabled Sam Phillips to link him up with Elvis Presley for a nationwide tour.
Bob Neal was booking him, and he asked Elvis who he wanted to on the tour with him in Texas, and Elvis told Bob to try to get me. So we did a Texas tour with him, and we did about 3 tours with him. Nobody could stand backstage without going over and looking through the curtains and watching Elvis, because he had that magnetism that you just had to watch him perform when he was performing. He just wanted to sing. He just wanted to perform, and he loved it when they started screaming.
This tour went on the back of his second hit single for Sun Records, Folsom Prison Blues, followed by the international hit single, I Walk the Line. The tours often meant that both artists shared the same bill, but it was to be Presley who would maintain his position as the tour headliner. On stage, both men would often do a light-hearted impersonation of the other, but if you scratched below the surface, these men were far from being friendly in their rivalry.
Rock and roll singer. But, Elvis who? Oh, no, I'll tell you, this is an impersonation of a rock and roll singer impersonating Elvis, is what this really is. Let me see, Marcy, you got a phone? If I lose my pants, I'll have to charge extra to get in here next Saturday night. Well, since my baby left me, well, I find a new place to dwell. Good, oh!
Well, it's down tea in the lonely street at the Heartbreak Hotel. You'll be so lonely. You'll be so lonely. You'll be so lonely. You could die.
In 1956, both Cash and Elvis were to take part in what is now known as the $1 Million Quartet. An impromptu jamming session at Sun Studios saw Cash and Presley jamming together alongside Jerry Lee Lewis and Carl Perkins, two other bright luminaries on the Sun label. Seeing the unique historic value of this spontaneous gathering, Sam Phillips quickly summoned a photographer and recorded the performance for the sake of posterity and history.
Whether we are saved or whether all is well, they say we only can hope and trust that it is so. But I was there when it happened, so I guess I ought to know. Yes, I know when Jesus saved me, the very moment he forgave me, he took away my heavy burdens. Lord, he gave me peace within. Satan can't make me doubt it. It's real and I'm gonna shout it. I was there when it happened, so I guess I ought to know. I don't care who tells me salvation is not real, though the world may argue that we cannot feel. Go get your burdens lifted and your sins will go. I was there when it happened, so I guess I ought to know. Yes, I know when Jesus saved me, the very moment he forgave me, he took away my heavy burdens. Lord, he gave me peace within. Satan can't make me doubt it. It's real and I'm gonna shout it. I was there when it happened, so
Although he was Sun's most consistently best-selling and prolific artist at that time, Cash felt constrained by his contract with the small label. Elvis Presley had already left Sun, and Phillips was focusing most of his attention and promotion on Jerry Lee Lewis. The following year, Cash left the label to sign a lucrative offer with Columbia Records.
Ask me if I'll forget my baby. I guess I will someday. I don't like it, but I guess things happen that way. You ask me if I'll get along. I guess I will some way. I don't like it, but I guess things happen that way. God gave me that girl to lean on, then he put me on my own. Heaven help me be a man and have the strength to stand alone. I don't like it, but I guess things happen that way. You ask me if I'll miss her kisses. I guess I will every day. I don't like it, but I guess things happen that way.
Johnny was always able to find compassion for the outsider, the underdog, and the outlaw. Showing solidarity for prison inmates, he began performing concerts at numerous prisons from the late 50s through to the mid-60s. These performances led to a pair of highly successful live albums, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison and Johnny Cash at San Quentin. Although he carefully cultivated a romantic outlaw image, Cash never served a prison sentence, although he landed in jail 7 times for misdemeanors, each stay lasting a single night.
You see, there are a great deal of real good songwriters in prison, because one thing the guys have plenty of time to do is think and Kansas one time. It got a little nervous like. There were 2,500 inmates at the show at the football stadium, and when I came off stage, they mobbed me, surrounded me, and wouldn't even let the guards close to me. They wanted to keep me for themselves for as long as they could, and they just got in as tight as they could around me and wouldn't let the guards or anybody get to me, all wanting to shake hands or autographs or talk to me about something, this and that.
My name is Sue. How do you do? How you gonna die?
You cut out your dancing and you never see a show. Friends come by to pick you up and you hardly ever go. It seems your head is in the clouds above. You've got the ways of a woman in love.
Well, the themes of country music are much the same in other music. There's love, and love is the main theme of all music, of course. There's much more sadness in country music. I don't know what the real reason is. Maybe because because of the fact that it is of the simple way of life.
Now you'll never know how much you've hurt my foolish pride. I recall your kisses, the times I held you tight. Now when I come to see you, you're sitting in the light, missing all the things that we dreamed of. You've got the ways of a woman in love. The night I stayed awake and cried. Now you'll never know how much you've hurt my foolish pride. I recall your kisses, the times I held you tight. Now when I come to see you, you're sitting in the light.
Constant touring took a heavy toll on Cash, and it was through this that he developed an epic drug and alcohol addiction, often taking over 50 pills a day, washed down with a bottle of whiskey. This would usually lead to destroyed hotel rooms and cancelled shows. It was during one of these tours that he had met June Carter, youngest member of the Carter family folk band. Johnny fell in love with her the second he saw her. His opening words to her were that one day they would marry. She was his soulmate and the person he turned to at time of trouble. Friends joked about his nervousness and erratic behavior, many ignoring the signs of his worsening drug addiction. Although in many ways spiraling out of control, his frenetic creativity was still delivering hits. His song Ring of Fire was a major crossover hit. The song was written by June Carter, but the signature mariachi-style horn arrangement was provided by Cash, who says it came to him in a dream. The song describes the personal hell Carter went through as she wrestled with her forbidden love for Cash, as they were both married to other people at the time, and as she dealt with Cash's personal ring of fire of drug dependency and alcoholism. His constant touring and drug use put intense strain on his marriage, and ultimately Vivian and John would divorce in 1966. Cash, ever the champion of the underdog and the downtrodden, would find solidarity with his Native American brothers.
Very little Indian blood in me myself, except in my heart. I got 100% for you tonight. It's good to be here.
Johnny would use his profile to offer them support in such songs as the Ballad of Ira Hayes, the story of the Native American soldier who raised the flag on Iwo Jima, yet returned to America to live in poverty and despair on a reservation.
He died drunk early one morning, alone in a land he fought to save. 2 inches of water in a lonely ditch was a grave for Ira Hayes.
Well, this old medicine man, when he found out I was going to Wounded Knee the next day, he said, I had a vision that you would write a song. Of course, maybe this is the reason I wrote it, but he said, I had a vision that you would write a song. So for that reason I wrote it. But when I left that place that day, I was so impressed with the whole place. There was such a mystical air hung over the place that I just had to write.
ago, in days of childhood, I used to play till evening time would come, still winding down that old familiar pathway. I hear my mother call at setting sun, come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last. Some of the fondest memories of my childhood are woven around supper time. When Mother used to call from the back steps of the old home place, come on home, son, it's supper time. My, how I'd love to hear that once again. But you know, time has woven for me the realization that someday we'll all be gathered around the great supper table up there for the greatest supper time of them all, with our Lord. I can almost hear the call now coming from the portals of heaven. Come on home now, son. It's supper time. Come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen so fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home.
In 1967, returning to a family reunion in America to mark the anniversary of Jack's death, he became so out of control from his sustained narcotic abuse that the plane had to make an emergency landing to evict Cash from the other, now terrified passengers. Johnny's drug addiction had now completely spiraled out of control. This would lead him into conflict with the law authorities on numerous occasions. His most serious and well-known run-in with the law occurred while on tour in 1965, when he was arrested by a narcotics squad in El Paso, Texas. Although the officers suspected that he was smuggling heroin from Mexico, he was actually smuggling amphetamines inside his guitar case. Because they were prescription drugs rather than illegal narcotics, he received a suspended sentence.
I picked this fellow up. He seemed to be wandering around, and I gave him a lodging for the night.
Yes.
The next morning I said, Johnny, I'd like to understand why that you would let a little thing as a pill throw you in the gutter and ruin your life.
He said, take your pills back and go. He said, just remember that there's people like us that care for you. And he said, you remember, you're a better man than that. And I never forgot the words this man told me.
Wonderful.
He's a very rare sheriff, a very good sheriff.
He was determined to stay at home. He was a sick man, but with the real true guts of a real man, he licked the problem, and I don't know of any guy in the world that has more guts than the Big John.
In 1968, John and June were married at a small, intimate ceremony. It was only now that Johnny pulled himself back from the precipice of self-destruction. His saving was the religious faith that his parents had instilled in him, along with the love of his new bride.
He said, I'll let you know when I'm ready. In about 7 months, I had a letter from him, and I'd like to read just a portion of that letter. He said, God said we are equal in his eyes. I demand equality, nothing more. My heart is a pauper like all men. Since music is my specialty, you can expect me to have songs planned. If nobody wants to hear me sing, that's fine. And I answered that letter, and I said, Johnny, we want you to come. We want you to bring a song and bring your guitar, have it tuned and ready to pick.
Yeah.
Gathered there without a thing to eat for days. Up stepped a little boy with a basket. please take this, Lord, he said. And with just 5 loaves and 2 little fishes, 5,000 had fish and bread. Who was it, everybody? Who was it, everybody? Who was it, everybody? It was Jesus Christ our Lord. Now you pay close attention, little children. It's somebody you ought to know. Yeah, it's all about a man that walked on earth 2,000 years ago. Well, he healed the sick and afflicted, and he raised them from the dead. Then they nailed him on an old rugged cross and put thorns on his head. Who was it, everybody? Who was it, everybody? Who was it, everybody? It was Jesus Christ our Lord. Well, they took him down and they buried him, and after the 3rd day, when they came to his tomb, well, they knew it was gone, 'cause a stone was rolled away. He's not here, he is risen, the angel of the Lord then said. And when they saw him walking with his nail-scarred hands, they knew he came back from the dead. Who was it, everybody? Who was it, everybody? Who was it, everybody? It was Jesus Christ our Lord.
This award is to the artist, but there will also be a plaque later for the producer. The albums nominated are By the Time I Get to Phoenix, performer Glenn Campbell; Divorce, performer Tammy Wynette; and Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison, performer Johnny Cash. The winner is the album of the year, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison.
Cash returned to the mainstream in the 1970s with his own national network variety show. The show was a huge commercial success, and Cash was joined on a weekly basis by a plethora of stars, including Ray Charles and Bob Dylan.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Cash was friendly with every U.S. president, starting with Richard Nixon. None of these friendships were about politics, as he never particularly supported any administration, but was just friendly with the nation's leaders. He stated that he found all of them personally charming, noting the fact that it was probably essential to getting oneself elected. Throughout the 1970s, Johnny remained a major force in entertainment, although now his wild days were left behind, replaced with time spent with his wife June and his growing family. He returned to the roots of his childhood, toiling the land at his now extensive ranch. This period held a new era for Johnny of professional and personal growth, and he spent every moment enjoying it.
I learned a lot about how the simple things of life are really the important things. Your health, sunshine, the fresh air, the land, the importance of getting his hands back in the dirt every once in a while. I love to plant a seed in the springtime and watch things grow from it, you know, and Uncle Russell was that way. He was an old countryman. It's the only kind of life he ever knew.
Well, my daddy left home when I was 3. Didn't leave very much to my ma and me, just this old guitar and an empty bottle of booze. Now, I don't blame him because he run and hid, but the meanest thing that my daddy ever did was before he left, he went and named me Sue. Well, he must have thought that it was quite a joke, and it got a lot of laughs from lots of folks. Seems I had to fight my whole life through. Some gal would giggle and I'd turn red, and some guy'd laugh and I'd bust his head. I tell you, life ain't easy for a boy named Sue. But I grew up quick and I grew up mean. My fist got hard, my wits got keen. Roamed from town to town to hide my shame. But I made me...
In 1980, Cash became the Country Music Hall of Fame's youngest living inductee at the age of 48. But during the 1980s, his records failed to make a major impact on the country charts, although he continued to tour successfully. In the mid-1980s, he recorded and toured with Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and Chris Christopherson as the Highwaymen, making 2 hit albums. At another hospital visit in 1988, doctors recommended preventive heart surgery, and Cash underwent double bypass surgery in the same hospital. Although Cash refused to use any prescription painkillers, fearing a relapse into dependency. Cash later claimed that during his operation he had what is called a near-death experience. He said he had had visions of heaven that were so beautiful that he was angry that he woke up alive.
A young cowboy named Billy Joe grew restless on the farm, a boy filled with wanderlust who really meant no harm. He changed his clothes and shined his boots and combed his dark hair down, and his mother cried as he walked out, "Don't take your guns to town, son, leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town." He laughed and kissed his mom and said, "Your Billy Joe's a man. I can shoot as quick and straight as anybody can. I wouldn't shoot without a cause, I'd gun nobody down." But she cried again as he rode away, "Don't take your guns to town, son, leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town." He sang a song as on he rode, his guns hung at his hips. He rode into a cattle town, a smile upon his lips. He stopped and walked into a bar and laid his money down, and his mother's words echoed again, "Don't take your guns to town, son, leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town." He drank his first strong liquor then to calm his shaking hand, and tried to tell himself at last he had become a man. A dusty cowpoke at his side began to laugh him down, and he heard again his mother's words, "Don't take your guns to town, son, leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town." Filled with rage, then Billy Joe reached for his gun to draw, but the stranger drew his gun and fired before he even saw. As Billy Joe fell to the floor, the crowd all gathered round and wondered at his final words, "Don't take your guns to town, son, leave your guns."
I appreciate the younger generation that might be discovering my rockabilly roots, and I appreciate the older generation.
Cash's newfound success was undoubtedly due to his signing to Rick Rubin's label and production company. Rubin was a legendary producer, more normally associated with hip-hop. Johnny experienced a unique renaissance. His first release for Rubin won a Grammy for Best Contemporary Folk Album. In 1996, he received his country's highest cultural award, the Kennedy Center Lifetime Achievement Award.
Johnny Cash, you have our applause, our admiration, and we have your records.
The late 1990s saw a resurgence of interest and popularity for Johnny Cash. Uniquely, he was seen by a whole new generation of people as a credible artist, and was again cited for his achievement by the American government, although now he was in very poor health.
Johnny Cash, the man in black. Country legend, an American beloved by millions. Major, please read the citation.
Johnny Cash, for his contributions to the music and entertainment industry, for his remarkable musical innovations that drew from folk, country, and rock and roll styles, and for setting an extraordinary standard in American music.
At the height of his resurgence, and with dramatically failing health, Cash passed away from cardiac failure at his ranch.
I am a pilgrim and a stranger.
From his early days as a pioneer of rockabilly and rock and roll in the 1950s, to his decades as an international representative of country music, through to his resurgence to fame as both a living legend and an alternative country icon in the 1990s, Cash has influenced countless artists. Upon his death, Cash was revered by many of the greatest popular musicians of all generations.
I'm a-going down to the river of Jordan just to bathe my weary soul. If I could touch but the hem of his garment, good Lord, will I know it'd make me whole. Oh, Johnny.
How high is the water, Mama? 2 feet high and right. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 2 feet high and rising. We can make it to the road in a homemade boat. That's the only thing we got left that'll float. It's already over all of wheat and oats. 2 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Mama? 3 feet high and rising. How high is the water, Papa? She said it's 3 feet high and rising. Well, the hives are gone, I lost my bees. Chickens are sleeping in the willow trees. Cows in water up past their knees.